Okay, so moving on now into our excretory system. And excretory means to get rid of waste, metabolic waste. Waste that's a product of breaking down our food and extracting the energy from it. And so our bodies, our cells, produce a lot of different types of waste. Examples, carbon dioxide, that is produced by respiration. We need to get rid of that. If it were to build up in our blood, it would make our blood acidic, and that would be dangerous for us. So we need to get rid of that carbon dioxide. When we break down certain proteins and amino acids, it makes nitrogen waste, which, if they built up in our bodies, would be dangerous. So we need ways of getting rid of those things. Okay? And so some of the organs that are important here, the kidneys. Kidneys are important. The kidney's job is to remove much of that waste from our blood. Okay? Kidneys help to get rid of these wastes and remove these toxins and change and create what we call urine. So urine is basically a mixture of water and several waste products from our blood.
But what if you don't drink enough
Your kidneys need water in order to work. And if you don't have enough water, then your kidneys are not going to work as well. Your kidneys can regulate the amount of water in your body. Because if you drink lots and lots of water, what do your kidneys do with it, the extra?
Pee out?
Yeah, they put it into your urine. And so if you're well hydrated, your urine is like pretty clear. If you're dehydrated, what do your kidneys do?
Keep more water?
They hold on to it. And so then your urine becomes much darker because your kidneys are putting less water into the urine. And so that's why the color of urine changes depending on how hydrated you are. Because your kidneys are balancing it. They're maintaining what?
Homeostasis.
Homeostasis. They're keeping a
Really?
balance
I was
of
actually
water.
going to say that, but like I thought it was wrong.
So this is what a kidney looks like. We're not going to get into all the details, but basically blood goes into your kidney in an artery. The waste products are removed from it. The waste products are mixed with water, which leaves through a separate tube. The cleaned out blood then goes back through this vein here. Okay? And so as the kidneys produce urine, it kind of drips through a tube that's called the ureter. There's so we have two kidneys, obviously, a left and a right kidney. So each one has a ureter attached to it, which brings this drip of urine into another organ called the urinary bladder. And the urinary bladder just sort of stores up this urine until it's ready to be released. And once it's full, that's what gives you the sensation you need to go to the bathroom. And then that urine is released from the bladder and it travels out through a single tube called the urethra. Carries urine out of the body and hopefully into the toilet. Right? You can live just fine with one kidney. So if you have some sort of, so your kidneys are like in your lower back, towards the back of your body on each side of your spine. They can be damaged, like trauma, a car accident, something can damage your kidneys. Also, internal processes, your kidneys could stop working, kidney malfunction. And you can live okay with one kidney. You cannot live okay without any kidneys. You need a kidney. If a person has kidney failure and neither kidney is working, they can go for a procedure several times a week that's called dialysis. And in dialysis, you have to go to a dialysis center. They basically, there are times they can do it at home. You go to a dialysis center, they hook up a machine that takes blood out of your body, runs it through a machine, which removes some of the waste products, and then puts the blood back into you. So it's kind of like an artificial kidney, although it doesn't work as well as your own kidney. People that have kidney failure generally are looking for a kidney transplant, where a person that has two healthy kidneys can donate one of their healthy kidneys to somebody who has no working kidneys, and then they can both live okay with one single kidney. or they can be donated from a person who's passed away recently, and they can donate their kidney.
Does that happen to me?
One of her kidneys? Yep. And they have to be a match, and so sometimes they look at relatives, close relatives who might be a good match, because for reasons we're not going to get into, your body could reject an organ if you get a transplant. So they try and get one that's as similar to you as possible, and they do that in different ways. Lily?
What's a kidney stone?
A kidney stone is a little piece of calcium, oftentimes, or a little secretion. It's like a little, almost pebble that can be formed in the kidneys. And then when it moves through, so those then sometimes move through the ureter into the bladder and then out through the urethra, and that can be very, very painful.
Oh.
Because you basically have a small, little, hard, pebble-like thing going through your ureter and out of the urethra, and so it's quite painful.
Is it like birth or something like that? Like
No.
something else?
No, because it's small, but it's going through a small tube,
Okay.
which is the urethra. So,
That's disgusting.
yeah.
Being on public.
On my ninth graders, we were on Excretory System. I have a picture of a kidney stone. It's about a big one, about 1 centimeter
Like,
across. So
This
it's,
big?
yeah.
Like, how does it like form though? Does it like the?
Just forms as a buildup of little different minerals that are in your urine, and they can start to accumulate and form little
How would you
How would like symptoms of
pain.
Like
Maybe
in your
difficulty urinating.
in your back? Something like that?
No, usually it's not as painful until it gets through the ureter and into the urethra. It's certainly painful. Sometimes difficulty urinating could be one. Pain would be another thing. And sometimes they'll give you have you drink excess fluids so you can try and flush those kidney stones out. Sometimes they try to break them up with ultrasound. They can do that, or a lot of times you just have to pass the stone.
Wait, by breaking it up, do they just like hit you like in the
No,
stomach?
they use a special machine that sends sound waves at it that might be able to break it up.
Oh.
how could you get it?
It just happens sometimes.
Is it like do you
No, I mean, it's not necessarily any specific thing that you do, it just happens. So the kidneys work because blood goes in. So obviously, our blood takes waste away from our cells. That blood eventually gets to the kidney, where those waste products are removed and turned into urine. Then that cleaned out blood can go back into circulation and provide nutrients and so forth. But also our skin is considered an excretory organ as well. Our sweat glands. Now, we sweat, the main reason we sweat is for what?
Cooling down?
Yeah, to maintain homeostasis in terms of our body temperature. When you sweat, so sweat it does the same thing as if you get out of the shower, get out of the pool, and it's like breezy, or there's like a wind or something, you feel cold, right? That's because as the water on your skin is evaporating, that removes heat, and so it makes you cold. Well, that's what sweat does. Having sweat on your skin, as it evaporates, it cools you down and helps maintain your body temperature. But also, in that sweat, as you know, if you ever got it in your eyes or something, there are other materials. It's not just water. There's salt in your sweat, salts that our body's excreting. There's small amounts of urea as well, another metabolic waste product that's in urine.
I told you.
So yeah, our skin is considered excretory organs. So
My cousin thinks that like she's little, but she doesn't really know what sweat is.
yeah.
So when she gets hungry, she licks her hands because it's salty.
Yeah, you know, that's just, it's not really gonna hurt you.
Pee.
Now, the amount of urea in salt is very, very low. So if you were, all right, since we're talking about it, and Soph brought it up. If you were,
Sorry.
if you were stranded, you were in the desert, you had no water, you had nothing to drink,
Drink your pee.
is that a good idea?
No. It depends. You have to like do something to it, right?
Not a good idea.
At all.
Because what is the purpose of urine?
To take out
To
toxins.
take out excess.
Yes, to take out to take out toxins, to take out waste products, because they're dangerous to us. If you consume them again and just put them right back into your body, you're just increasing the level of these toxins, And after once or twice, they're going to build up in your blood, and it's going to be toxic to you.
That's what they do when there's like a show making your food or whatever.
You drink their own urine?
Yeah.
Don't they do something to it though? Like you let
If
it
you
sit out in the
distill
sun?
it, and distilling it would just remove the water from it, then that would be something that would be better than drinking just plain old urine. Think?
Instead of like bringing a knife or anything, just bring a Brita and just filter it.
Yeah, the Brita doesn't filter everything. You can't put urine in the Brita and then drink it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Do not try this at home. All right. Anyway, your lungs. Your lungs are another important excretory organ because they get rid of carbon dioxide.
Ow.
As blood goes, so our lungs themselves, we're going to talk more about the lungs. Our lungs are all these tiny little air sacs called alveoli. And as the blood goes by these alveoli, carbon dioxide diffuses into the air, and then we exhale that. That's how our lungs get rid of carbon dioxide. So as we exhale, we're excreting carbon dioxide.
But I thought carbon dioxide was bad for us.
That's why we're exhaling, we're getting rid of it.
But how do we get it?
Because remember we talked about respiration?
Yeah.
When our cells take glucose, get the energy out, one of the waste products is carbon dioxide. That goes into our blood, and then the blood goes to our lungs, and we exhale that carbon dioxide to get rid of it. So our lungs are considered also a part of what we call the respiratory system. The respiratory system is to provide our body with oxygen for respiration and get rid of the carbon dioxide that we produce during respiration. So our lungs, we inflate our lungs and we push the air out of our lungs using a special muscle. It's called your diaphragm. It is tucked up underneath the rib cage here. It's this pink, and it's tucked up underneath your rib cage. And when you contract that muscle, it sort of drops down, and that causes you to breathe in. It inflates your lungs with air. Then as you relax that muscle, that forces the air out of your lungs. And so when you breathe in and out, you're basically contracting and relaxing this muscle called the diaphragm. So, a few things related to the diaphragm. When you're not thinking about it, your diaphragm contracts and relaxes automatically. Right? You don't have to think all day long constantly about your breathing, right? Your diaphragm will relax and contract, and you breathe in and out throughout the day. But you can also control it voluntarily. Right now, if I say it and you start thinking about it, you have to breathe in and out. You have to contract and relax your diaphragm so that you could breathe in and out. So you can control it voluntarily, but your brain can also control it involuntarily.
Really?
Sometimes you might fall or get tackled or something, and your diaphragm suddenly is stunned for a few seconds. And that's what, when you get the wind knocked out of you, that's what's happening. Your diaphragm basically just stops working for a few seconds. So your diaphragm is temporarily stunned, and you can't breathe in and out, and it's scary, but eventually it returns back to your normal function. Yes?
When you touch your diaphragm, does it hurt it like?
No, you can't really touch it. It's tucked up under your rib cage. So no, you can't really touch it.
What happens if you stab it?
And you die.
So
We have a
when
different picture.
you breathe, what's that?
We have a different picture.
No picture of Mr. Prue.
Oh, you have Mr. Prue?
Who's that?
Yeah, this one I have this screen.
He looks like he's 5.
He used to have more hair and it used to be darker. Anyway, so as we breathe in, if we were to analyze the air we take in versus the air we exhale, when you breathe in, the air you breathe in, it's about 21% oxygen, 79% nitrogen, and then 1% carbon dioxide. So that's what you breathe in. When you then exhale that air, if you were to look at it, it has less oxygen, and it has more carbon dioxide, because that's what happens when we breathe. We absorb oxygen from the air that we breathe in. We exhale, we excrete some of that carbon dioxide, and so the air we breathe in and the air we release is different. The composition is different. Lily?
You know how like when you go like open your mouth like hot, like there like it's hot air, and then when you like blow like it's like cold air.
It's the same air.
No,
It's
it's
the
not.
same, it's the same temperature. No, it's the same.
No, it's not.
All right.
Why does it feel like that?
Because probably there's a lower volume, so a higher, the air when you do that is going quicker because it's going through a smaller opening. Yeah. All right. So when you breathe in, if you breathe in through your nose, air goes through your nostrils into an area in the back of your throat called your pharynx.
Good job, I feel dizzy.
And in your nose, you have tiny little hairs.
I didn't know.
You have mucus.
Ew.
And that stuff has a purpose.
Really?
And its purpose is to trap little bits of stuff that's in the air. Because right now as you're breathing in, there's little bits of dust. There might be bacteria or viruses or things. So as you breathe in through your nose hairs and this mucus, they trap a lot of that and sort of filter the air that you're breathing in.
Wait, so
You could also, though, breathe in through your mouth, but then you skip some of that. You skip some of that filtration that was happening in your nose. But then the back of your nasal cavity merges with the back of your throat, and then that air heads down a long tube called the trachea. And the trachea, you might call it your windpipe, goes just in front of your esophagus.
So is
And this is the main passageway that's leading down into your lungs.
is that how you talk or something?
Yeah, you're through air passing over your voice box. As you follow that path down this trachea, it's reinforced with rings of cartilage to be sure it doesn't collapse. Because if your windpipe collapses, you can't breathe. If a piece of food gets stuck in your trachea, that's what choking is, because you can't get air into your lungs. Then that passageway leads down, it branches off into what we call bronchi, these two tubes that lead to each lung. And then that branches off into smaller tubes called bronchioles, and they get smaller and smaller until we have tiny little tubes that form our lungs. And they end in these little air sacs, these little clusters that are called alveoli. And these alveoli, that's where we actually absorb the oxygen into our blood.
We have the bronchioli.
Okay, yeah. So trachea, here's a little different. So you have the trachea is the single tube. It splits into two tubes, they're the bronchi, and then the smaller tubes are the bronchioles. And they end in alveoli. Lily?
a couple days ago, my sister was watching Hannah Montana, and like the dad was
Your
like.
sister. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
The sister was like, no, not the sister. What am I saying? The dad was pulling out his nose hairs with like a nose hair trimmer.
Yeah.
Does that mean that like dusty pollen can get into his lungs?
Yeah, he was probably like, if you ever seen Mr. Arcuri's big long ones that stick out.
Oh yeah, those are disgusting.
Yeah, so yeah, sometimes Mr. Arcuri in his free periods will just pluck them out. But you're not getting them all. Just
No, yeah.
all right, so this is a picture of one of these alveoli. Okay? So the air, as it comes into our lungs, ends up in this little cluster that inflates with air. At the same time, blood is traveling right near those alveoli. And so what happens as the blood is near these alveoli, it can release its carbon dioxide. And it can absorb oxygen. And so this blood, as it travels to our lungs, it kind of gets recharged. It's gaining new oxygen, it's getting rid of carbon dioxide, so that it can then go back to our body and provide those things. This is what the alveoli sort of look like, a little cluster of grapes that are surrounded by these tiny little blood vessels, so that material can diffuse in and out. Again, this is just another view. Air comes into the alveoli, Carbon dioxide is released from our blood, oxygen is absorbed into our blood, and then that blood can go out to the various parts of our body. Just another view.
Unicorn. It's a
It's not horse,
horse.
it has no horn. So again, just the same sort of view. Trachea feeds the lungs. The two branches are the bronchi. They get smaller and smaller to form the bronchioles. All right. So any questions about the excretory or respiratory system?
What about the respiratory?